Okay, well, we have our last caller for the show. This will be our last question for this episode. There are just way too many questions to cover. I'll give you a little teaser before we get off here completely, so you'll know what to look forward to next week. It's some pretty hot stuff. So, caller, thank you for calling in and being patient with us. What is your name and where are you calling from?
Hi, guys. It's Isaac again from the Dominican Republic.
Yes, sir.
Sorry to be calling back again, but I had another question. And to clarify, I'm the 786 caller. The thing is, I'm calling through Skype, and it'll look like it's Florida, but I'm really the Dominican Republic. So
got it. Thank you for clarifying that.
All right. So my question now is about the Gospels, the New Testament. I was reading about somebody trying to reconcile the chronology in the Gospels for the crucifixion, and they were trying really hard to make it jive. They kind of made it happen by saying, at least in my opinion, I want to hear the Rabbis' opinion. It kind of seemed to happen because the guy said that the Gospel of John was in Roman time. They were like, when they referred to Friday, they referred to Friday in like the way the Roman calendar does, where it's like a 24-hour day kind of thing. So when he did that,
okay. Do me a favor. Let me clarify for myself again, because I think I was thinking you were talking about something else, but I think I know what you're talking about now, and Rabbi can confirm too. So you're talking about how one of them says he was sacrificed before Passover, one says after, or that sort of thing. Is they're trying to make that work, right? By saying that John is referring to based on how the Romans view things, whereas the rest, is that kind of where you're headed?
That's exactly okay. where I was headed. I mean, the Rabbi's books do an excellent job, but I hadn't seen that question kind of addressed in the Rabbi's books, which again, I need to, everybody who's listening to this, that you guys need to buy the Rabbi's materials, because that's awesome.
Hey, man, I'm telling you, we have several copies actually in our possession too. So that's great. Hey, Isaac, thank you so much. That is a fantastic question. Thank you. And we'll talk to you again soon.
All right.
Okay. Shalom.
Take care, guys.
Thanks. Bye. Yeah. Wow. That's pretty.
Okay. What's the question? I didn't get the question.
Okay. There, you know how the Gospels, they don't agree on when the so-called sacrifice happened. One suggests it was before, one notes that it happened to be before Pesach, one was after. They don't agree on when it actually happened. Right. And he's saying that what he's been hearing in defense of the Christian doctrine is that the book of John tends to try to say that when John was written with the Romans being there, that their days were maybe looked at differently. And so they were trying to explain it to a different audience, kind of like this right here. For me, it took a long time for me to realize that in Judaism, the new day starts at sunset, right? It was always midnight for me. And so there's some sort of a teaching out there that the Romans had a different viewpoint, and John was trying to express this to the Romans so they would get it. And it just so happened to be a different day, a different expression of time.
Okay. So let me just say that that would be nonsense. Now, just
mixed with applesauce, right?
Yeah. It means John is pivoting off of Pesach, of Passover, not anything Roman. The Julian calendar is not relevant here. This is, I remember as a kid growing up in New York, so they'd have these guys sitting on the streets of Manhattan with, 3-card Monte, and, it's like, this is like, when a magician is in Vegas, and what a magician does is they create illusions by distraction. And what it means is they get the audience to look here while something else is going on somewhere else. And the idea, what magicians do, the reason they're able to produce these illusions, because they really aren't doing magic, I promise, they're really not. Okay. So, but what they're really good at is they're very good at getting you to look here while what is going on is here.
It's a sleight of hand. Yeah.
Okay, and that kind of distraction gets the audience to believe something, and then of course, then the trick happens. That's how tricks are done. It's you get a person, you're able to get a person to divert their attention from what they really should be looking at and look somewhere else. And by looking somewhere else, they actually miss the whole deal. Okay, that's how magic tricks are done. So, the book of John, whoever wrote it, as he mentioned at the beginning of the show, has we have no idea who wrote it, but is very interested, unlike the Synoptic Gospels, which means the Gospels of Matthew, Mark, and Luke, wants to equate Jesus with the Passover sacrifice. That's why you'll see in John 1:29, 36, behold the Lamb of God. You won't find that. You won't find John the Baptist screaming that in the Synoptic Gospels, because for this last gospel, it's Jesus is now a Passover sacrifice. It's an idea actually you'll find in Pauline writing as well, but you just won't find it in the Synoptic thinking because it's a different community, the Joannian community, and whoever is writing is reflecting that orientation of Christianity. Here's the key point of the answer. The author of John, whoever wrote it, it's written anonymously, is pivoting off of not off of anything Roman. John is pivoting, read 19:14 for yourself, off of Passover, which means it has nothing to do with a non-Jewish calendar or a Roman calendar. So again, you might have these great magicians that do trick, but that's a trick. That's not, because John is interested in Jesus being crucified at the time when the Passover lamb is being crucified. So the Passover lamb is sacrificed, which would have been about midday. That's why John has Jesus crucified at noon. In Mark, it's 9 o'clock in the morning. It's the third hour. And John is saying, there's a reason. John is creating, or he is a highly literate writer. It is very likely that some guy in about the year 90 didn't just come up with this, but this was part of a oral ideas that were in vogue in wherever he's writing. We don't know where the book of John is written. And he is then putting this together. It is very possible that the prologue of John is added on later, that the 21st chapter of John is added later. That's possible, sewn in later. But I don't want to get into that. But John is pivoting off of a Jewish calendar. He's not pivoting off of a Gentile calendar, a Roman calendar. That's nonsense. That's silly. That's why in John, for example, you could have a story where the Jewish leaders refused to enter the place which was a non-Jewish center because they didn't want to be defiled because they had to eat of the Passover sacrifice. And you have to read Exodus 12. You had to be in a pure state in order to eat of the Passover sacrifice. That's why, if you notice, look at John 13. That's John's Last Supper. There's no Passover Seder there because it hasn't happened yet. If you look carefully, when Judas Iscariot is leaving it's a dinner. It's not the Last Supper. Jesus is actually washing the feet of the disciples. So he's got a whole different routine going on in John 13. Notice what everyone is thinking. Like, people are going, oh, why is Judas leaving with the money? He's probably using the money to go purchase the food for the Passover meal. Well, how is that possible? Well, that is possible in John's version of the story. Because in John's version of the story, the Last Supper is not a Passover Seder. It's the night, it's 24 hours before the Passover Seder. And therefore, he can be doing all that stuff. So therefore, you'll be told that, yeah, they're using a Roman calendar, they're using a Puerto Rican calendar, they're using a Chinese calendar, they're using an Eskimo calendar, they're using, a calendar from Luxembourg, they're using a Shmata calendar, a Japanese calendar. All this stuff is nonsense. You won't find it there. What you will find is that on different days. Now, there are two layers here. One layer is obviously John disagrees with the Synoptic Gospels. When I say disagrees, I have no clue that John, in fact, I have reason to believe that whoever wrote John never saw Matthew, Mark, and Luke.
Sure.
A very good reason to believe that. So when I say disagree, it's not like what John, oh no, I ain't going with Matthew because Matthew's an idiot. They couldn't email each other. They couldn't go on the internet and look it up. This is in the 2nd century, you're going to have people who are trying to organize this. The guy who really works hard at trying to get all these gospels to agree, to harmonize them, is a guy named Tatian, who produces what's called a Diatessaron in about the year 170. What the Diatessaron is, it's really an incredible, you can, by the way, read it. You can order it at Amazon, I'm sure, probably get it online is my guess. What the Diatessaron is that he sought to take all the gospels, but make it all fit. Like, how do we get everything going? And try to make one stereophonic gospel, harmony gospel. It, of course, doesn't work. It blows up all over the place. But that's the guy who really had a lot of spare time to do. So get what he does. He takes the 4 gospels, the Matthew, Mark, Luke, and John, the 4 surviving gospels, clearly others that didn't survive. And then he tries to create a 5th gospel, which he does, meaning he takes all that, coalesces it into one book. It never works. But what I'd like you to notice is that if you ever read the Diatessaron, which I'm sure people read all the time, so you'll notice that John's influence is overly significant. John was always the favorite gospel, and people in the church typically would go with John's chronology. And for instance, Easter, like people like Polycarp, didn't celebrate Easter based on the vernal equinox, but based it on when the Jews celebrated Passover, but did it on 14th of Nisan, based on John, not based on the Synoptic Gospels. But they're pivoting off, my gosh, I mean, it's just really simple. They're pivoting off the same calendar, and that's the Jewish Pesach. Nothing to do with the Romans, so therefore it's not relevant.
Mm-hmm.
You know, that's Las Vegas. You know, if you want to see, there are great magicians out there. What they're doing is they're getting you to look there, and the trick, the illusion is possible, and the reason it appears to be an illusion is you're not looking where you're supposed to be looking. So this kind of diverting your attention into some nonsense is what gets everyone in a lot of trouble.